r/ask Reddit. What did you not understand as a kid, but you now understand as an adult? The value of all the shit I trashed or broke. Or sold. Cries in GammaCube. Or forgot on a cruise ship. Also cries in GameCube. That many adults are dumb as hell. Joe Rogan put it perfectly. There's really no such thing as an adult. Just people older than you that also have no ducking clue what's going on. You're not a real adult. You're just a tall child holding a beer and having a conversation you don't understand. Dylan Moran edit. Thank you for the opportunity to irritate wankers who take Reddit far too seriously. Kind stranger. My dad wasn't a workaholic. We just had bills to pay. Wait until you realize that work can also be an escape from the stresses of home life. Exactly this. You don't realize how much you need an excuse to just get out of the house without anyone questioning you. Work helps. You're not lying about it. And you don't have to be home. When my parents said no to something like having a sleepover and there was no good obvious reason, it's because they just didn't want to deal with all the bullshit. Sometimes parents just want to be left alone and have time to themselves without having to babysit the rest of the neighborhood. This one is a big one for me. I love my daughter's friends, but I don't want them around all weekend. There is always a sigh of relief when guests leave and you can relax in your own home. Guests leaving is a relief, but a lot of kids leaving is like releasing a fart you had to keep in for 6 hours. The quote, "The days get longer but the years get shorter. After having a child, that one's just hitting me in the gut now." I know, right? 2011 was just last year. I genuinely still start any discussion of the early 90s by thinking 10 years ago. As a kid, I used to think that if people worked harder/more they were paid more. So for instance, I would purposefully make a little mess at retail stores, movie theaters, restaurants, etc. Since the more they cleaned up the more they got paid. Now I just feel like I was an a-hole. So, funny story, when we did career reports in 3rd grade, the teacher went around asking us all what we want to be when we grew up, and my twin brother said gas station attendant. His reasoning was that he noticed whenever we went to the gas station my mom would give the attendant like $20. And what a great way to make a lot of money because people need gas for their cars. Open bracket. This was the 90s, when gas was cheap and you didn't have cards at the pump. Apparently my brother didn't realize the gas station attendant didn't get to keep the money. I guess what his real dream job was in actuality was oil executive. Mine, by the way, was to be the person who built Lego sets for the commercials, but was shot down as not actually a job. Which of course now is a job thanks to the proliferation of Lego stores and artists and whatnot. Thanks, Mrs. C. I am curious, what is yours and your brother's job now? Why my parents wouldn't let me eat 3 fruit roll-ups per day. But now we're adults and no one can tell us no. Except our stomachs. Our stomachs just tell us after we eat them. How grown-ups fall asleep after Sunday lunch, Christmas dinner, etc. It was so boring as a kid, but now I fully understand the value of afternoon naps in the sun after a roast dinner. And how, if they're parents, they're doing it because they trust all the other grown-ups and older kids to babysit their kids. Naps because you don't have to watch the kids. Most excellent. That is so nice. Hey mom and dad, want to see the grandkid? Sure. Now I'm going to borrow the guest bed and take a nap for a couple of hours. Edit. My top comment all time is about me taking a nap. Sounds about right. Now if y'all will excuse me, the time change has caught up with me and a very comfy bed calls. That life was short. Now I'm in my 60s and I am astonished of how short life really is. Jadu was turning 25 and I am going to pretend I didn't see this. Shit man, same here. I'm so happy that I can say that I am only 24 for a few more months. Not sure if this has already been mentioned, but Helga Pataki from Hey Arnold. As a kid, I thought she was an ugly weird girl. As an adult, my mind was blown when I realized how neglected she was. Her mom was an alcoholic and her dad was a narcissist who favored Olga and made her the golden child. Most of the characters have pretty sad stories, honestly. That show was deep and I never realized it as a child. I feel like Miriam at least tried to be a good mother, but yes, she was an airheaded alcoholic. In the road trip episode, Miriam was clearly heartbroken and guilty when Helga called her a lousy mom, and just wanted Helga to have faith in her that she would be able to fix things since she got them stranded in some hick town with no money, and she also stood in line for 18 hours to get those snow boots for Helga for Christmas. Big Bob is just a blowhard joke, but I think he and Helga were exactly alike. Like in the Quantity Time episode, they actually bonded over that stupid Rats musical. I think in the Thanksgiving episode, it was a huge wake up call because they actually gave a shit about Helga when she left and didn't say where she was going. That didn't last long though. Edit. My first gold. Thanks whoever you are. This guy Hey Arnold's. Not everyone is inclined to do the right thing. Some people are selfish jerks and it sucks. But you just have to accept it and do what you believe is right. There are a lot of awesome people out there too. And you can't get too cynical about the world because of the shitty people in it. True. My brother advised me that 90% of the people out there are doing their best 90% of the time. It gives me a better view of the world. That's a good way to look at it. It took me some time, but I finally realized that the reason people doing terrible things sticks out to us so much is because they are aberrations that activate all sorts of survival-based instincts. Normal people don't get anywhere near the same attention from our brains. That as a teenager you think you have shit figured out, but you'll look back in 5 years and think about how stupid you were but were unable to see. Life is a constant cycle of realizing how dumb you were 5 years ago. Edit. Well, this blew up. Thank you for the rewards and your kind words. When I was 10 I asked my mom what a blowjob was and she told me it was just a term for a quick, easy job you do for someone. As a kid I just took that at face value, but as an adult I now understand she did a damn fine job of skirting around that one. Reminds me of when my family was watching a sitcom and the word blowjob came up. My little cousin who was also around 10 asked what it was and my aunt replied literally straight away, it's $20. Everyone else in the room was holding back laughter. Well, you know the saying, $20 is $20. I didn't know what virginity was and my dad would say I would understand when I got older. In the meantime, I thought it would make such a pretty name for a girl. My dad had no problem telling me, it's someone who's never had a kiss. Held hands. Getting your work done is more important than being naturally intelligent. However, not being likable will get you passed over no matter how hard you work. Edit. This has gotten popular, so I'll add a few things. If you're not tolerable to work with, you're not a good worker. The slight boost in productivity that your hard work provides cannot possibly make up for poor communication, resulting in inefficiency, group conflicts, resulting in poor performance and higher turnover, or lack of leadership skills, making you a bad choice for management positions. You will not be promoted if nobody want to work with you. Effort be damned. You don't need to go sucking your boss's dong to get a promotion. Act professional, be cordial, and try to be a decent person. You don't have to be friends with your boss or your co-workers. Just don't go out of your way to make them dislike you. This one took me until my mid-20s to figure out, and holy hell did it make my life easier once it did. Also, no one tells you that unless you are one of those naturally charismatic people that learning how to be likable is a soft skill that will take work, effort and training. Thank God I had a good manager that knew how to help me. The Alanis Morissette lyric, "You're my best friend with benefits from head over feet." I told my parents that my best friend was my best friend with benefits when I was like 8, and they laughed hysterically, and I just assumed it's because they weren't cool and into Alanis's music and didn't understand that it clearly meant super best friend. And in a way I guess it does mean that. In middle school my best friend and I learned queer is another word for weird. Being proud little widows. My best friend and I proudly marched into the kitchen arm in arm and declared to my super conservative parents, "Mom, Dad, we're queer." They both looked shocked, and finally my mom asked, "What do you think that means?" I learned a lot that day. I've never been able to make my dad laugh that hard again. My best friend and I told her, "Mom, we want to live together when we're older," and she asks, "What, like lesbians?" To which we ask what that means. Women who live together? Oh yeah, then we'll be lesbians, we exclaim, holding hands. We turned out to be straight though. I could never grasp the concept of breaking change for larger bills. For example, as a kid you have classroom events where every student was asked to bring $15 for whatever it is the teacher was buying. If my mom gave me $3 and another kid brought a $20, the teacher would take my money and immediately turn around and hand the other kid one of my $5 bills. In my mind she was giving my money away. Why is she giving my money away? Why am I giving money to this other kid? Took too long to figure that one out. Fortunately, you now understand. I fear there are still many adults that don't understand simple things like this. Working in retail and the bill was £8.06, for example, and they want to pay with a 10. So I'd say, do you have the 6? And some people would hand me the 6p and they'd get 2 shiny pound coins in return. And some would just be totally confused throughout the entire transaction and prefer me to give them the shrapnel for change instead. That not everything turns out okay. Every kid's plot, movie, TV, books, ends with basically all issues resolved, and more often than not, a happy ending. It really wasn't until adulthood that I realized that some people have life shit on them and it never gets better. That no matter how much you hope, some things must turn out sad and that's it. As a child, I remember reading all 13 books of a series of unfortunate events just for that one euphoric moment when everything ties in neatly at the end. When that didn't happen, I was confused and angry. In hindsight, I now applaud Lemony Snicket for ruining my childhood. Applause for Lemony Snicket. Someone bought the whole set from my little bookstore and it made me very happy. That my parents couldn't just double the presents this Christmas if I tell them it's okay to not do anything for next Christmas. Alright Johnny, it's time we had a talk about time value of money. That there isn't a vegetable called a knuckle that I guessed was similar to eggplant. When my mom threatened to give me a knuckle sandwich, I assumed she was threatening to feed me something healthy and gross. Better than thinking she was going to hit you, I guess. The stress of paying bills and budgeting. My parents tried to keep this hidden from me, but I could tell how much they carefully budgeted. They also sacrificed for us kids. I didn't get that until I had a dog first and then children. My mom did the budgeting and the taxes right in front of me on the dining room table with a calculator. Even showed me how and why and what, and I'm super grateful to her for that. Stopped doing that in front of me in the last 2 years of high school, which I now know was because she was trying to hide my dad's crack addiction and the massive gouge it was ripping through their finances. Oof, hope your pop's clean now. That pickles and cucumbers are both cucumbers. Anything's a cucumber if you're brave enough. When I was a kid I used to get upset at my dad for falling asleep whenever we tried watching a movie together. Now, as an adult I understand the reason he fell asleep was that he was so tired from working 2 jobs trying to give me the best childhood he possibly could. On top of that, even though he was exhausted, he still made an effort to try and spend some quality time with me. My dad was always like that too. So embarrassing as a kid. Then I got a job with an hour commute each way, and I would suddenly fall asleep at home while playing video games. Better to be falling asleep at the controller than it is to be at the wheel. Good on you for letting yourself nap like that. How to play Minesweeper. I get it now. Still don't get it. So if a square has the number 2 in it, that means there's 2 bombs it's touching. It could be side by side, up and down, or diagonal. You have to use other nearby spots to determine which spot has a bomb or not. For example, if the spot that says 2 already has 2 bombs you can see touching it, then you're clear to click every other spot the 2 square is touching. The goal of the game is to get rid of all the squares on the map without touching any bombs. If you touch one bomb, you lose. Simple but addictive. There are much more appealing food options than hot dogs and mac and cheese. Prove it. I've discovered chicken tenders. There's your proof. You wouldn't care what people thought of you if you knew how seldom they think of you. As a 13-year-old shelf stacker in a supermarket, I asked my successful and wealthy boss, how did you manage to do all this? He owned several stores, properties, investments, etc. He said, anyone can do this. I wake up and put my pants on one leg at a time like everyone else. Finally understood that saying properly from then on. Oh shit, I put both my pant legs on at the same time. I have a metal frame that I suspend my pants on, and I just jump into them every morning. How to dial any phone number that was alphanumeric. 1-800 wait what? I thought adults had access to special phones with letters. Calvin and Hobbes jokes. Reread and there's new jokes every time. Time to go back and read something. Edit. My favorite quote is I expect nothing and it's still too much. The one that always stuck to me was you know what's weird? Day by day, nothing seems to change. But pretty soon, everything's different. This is also a quote that becomes more poignant with age. Compromise. I used to be a very black-white, right-wrong, with me or against me sort of person, with the high standards and liberal application of judgments to match. I've mellowed out, and I'm at a point in my life where empathy matters more to me than principle. Most of the time, the hills worth dying on are far between. I find an honest exchange of perspectives much more worthwhile. In the words of Vonnegut, gotta make babies, you've got to be kind. 15-year-old me would call me a sellout, but then, I'm free to call 15-year-old me an idiot, and we're pretty much even. I wish this penguin was replicated more. That no one around you really cares about the things you think they do. No one that matters cares about the brand of your clothes. No one is really concerned with the things you are achieving or are not achieving. No one is really concerned about how you look in that outfit. We are all just worried about what everyone else is thinking when no one is really that obsessed with us. When we spend time taking care of ourselves and not worrying about other people, it becomes easier to follow your own goals, not feel so trapped by outside pressures, and genuinely cheer on other people to their own successes. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.